Yes.
Good, let's start. Our topic today is localization and internationalization testing. My name is Davydova Arina. I am a software testing engineer, and let's start with rules. You can write your question for the chat. After a talk, I will answer for the question. And now please mute your microphones, and then we will answer your question after talk. Thank you very much, and let's start. First, it's what's mean localization. We know that it's written like L10N, 10 and missing words, like a short name of localization. Localization is adaptation of our design of our website to culture, to region, environment. What include in localization? Is translation of our UI, of all our documentation, date, time, monetary, ledger specific, keyboard layout, symbols, text, pictures, images, colors, everything that appear like in UI and inside like time and calendars inside our app. I will stop on this. But now, what's internationalization? We have always questioned what's difference between localization and internationalization testing. And internationalization is preparing our system in the code to many of languages. For example, now we have in our system Russian and English language, but in future we want to have Chinese language or Japanese language. And we should prepare our system that if we'll add some language or change something in language, it will be better. And I think it's not only for future, but internationalization is better for many language. Or if you prepare for one language, it will be better to developers and to testers to test it. I prepared a checklist what should be tested in localization testing. Yeah, it's in what languages, what support everything in this language, then correction of correctness of this translation. The next one is every element in the UI. We will stop to this topic too. And documentation help and all documentation should be translated in this language. Localize. Now let's stop for regional and culture features. First is calendar. I mentioned it earlier. We have different calendar all over the world. For example, we have Gregorian calendar. It's now 2021, but in other countries can be different calendars. And for example, in Japan, in Hijri calendar, we have 1,442 or 1,443 year now. And it's different, and we should to clarify in what standard should be calendar in Europe. The next one, year in all countries, not starting from 1st of January. We know that in China it's starting from 12th of February this year, and it's moved every year. And if you, for example, visit from China, you should clarify how calendar will appear in their local. The next one is date. Date we have different formats too. Here you see now like day, month, and year. We have 4 symbols. However, we can use this one. It's day, month, and 2 symbols of year. It can be different in all countries, and we have like short, medium, long, and full. Short first, it can be like months, then day, then year. Here you can see June is shortified like without E. Long one is full name of months, and the full one is with a day of the week, can be written in this format. Days can be written like 0, 1 day, months 0, 6, or if you have 7, 0, 7, June, J, 2020, 20 can be like symbols. How I mentioned earlier, can be 2 symbols, can be 4 symbols. And if we stop about this one, about 0, 6, and 6, I had experience in my project that we should do request for our system, like do request. I did request, it was August, and I wrote like 9, for example, 9:21, and then requested. And system give me an error because should be written 09, like this 06. And you should clarify what a format system should be written, like not to see this problem, because it was like I thought that it was bug, but it like in system wasn't in our system. We have with day of the week the same. It can be written Monday, M, MO, and 0, 1, 1. And you should clarify, not only B's should clarify when requirements is right, and all these things should be clarified because it's very important things. And when you analyze requirements, you should answer the question about this, about day, about how it will be written, in what format will be requested, in what format will be your application. And we have examples. Well, for example, in USA, using full format, first day of the week, then month, day, and year. In Mexico, you first write an month, then day, then year. And in Japan, year, month, day. And you can see here. But when it was internalized, it like used API, and now it's looks better. It's like example from how we used internalization. It now written in the same format for all 3 countries, and it will be better to use this application. The next one is time. With time, we can find problems too. Not all countries use local name for time zones. Abbreviators can be time zone abbreviators can be different. In some countries, in the summer, change time. In some countries, no. One time zone can be have different names in in other countries, and we have like UTC. It can be not difference like 1 hour and 30 minutes, but also can be with 15 minutes. My colleagues had experience and told me about that. They did a request too, and the time they didn't clarify the time zone, and then their notification came not in right time. For example, they requested that this notification should come at 12 o'clock, but time zone wasn't correct and it came at 5 o'clock. Then they took a lot of time to find what was the bug, but it was problem with time. And you should verify when requirements is written about time zone too. We have time examples. It's short one, hours, minutes, medium, hours, minutes, and seconds. Long one with time zone, and full with like Moscow Standard Time with description, all full, or all things written like full time. We have a difference too with minutes. How I mentioned earlier, can be written 0, 1, 1 seconds, and with hours and time zone can be written like together or like this format, and we use this format or this one with 3 and 2 zeros, but in other countries can be used in other formats, and you should clarify it too. Numbers, can you see that separate 4,000 in countries can be different. For example, for USA, it's using comma. For Germany, it's using dot. In Russia, Belarus, and in Kazakhstan, we use blank. But vice versa for fractional, in USA, using point, but dot, but was using comma for 1,000. and Germany, vice versa, has comma. And for example, you have USA for English and German language, and you should know these differences because it can be a big problem because user use this format in their country and they should see this. In Russia we use comma to the fractional part. In displaying negative numbers can be different too. Minus can be before number, after number. Number can be in the brackets, and minus can be in the brackets too. Can be circle brackets or spiral brackets. It can be different. And numbers in all also we have one standard. It's Latin numbers. But for example, you localize for Japanese now. Japanese. And it should be written. They prefer to write, for example, a stakeholder says that it should be written to now their numbers. You should clarify how it will be written only their numbers or should somewhere appear Latin numbers. Everything should be clarified when requirements written, and you should know in what format it will be. Okay, let's go. The next one is features. We have formatting current values too. It can be different, and it can be written like minus and plus before number or after number, full name, short name, and everything should be clarified how it should be written because can be it should be in one format in all your system, and you should clarify how it can be written because in all system had different writing of this. Next one is temperature value. Temperature can be Celsius in one country, for example, Kelvin, and Fahrenheit for another, and should clarify in what format will be written for your localized country. System of measures, it's a difficult topic too because everything should be in one system of measures. I read interesting fact that was experienced and sending for Mars was experienced and for Mars was sending apart and it was in one system of measures, but in the Mars was another system of measure and it was lost in the space for this case. The next one is alphabet and font. For example, in Kazakhstan, we have Times New Roman 14, but for other countries, it can be different one and should be written about this too in your requirements. Text orientation, it's very interesting too, because in some countries it's written from left to right, and some from top to down, and you should clarify when you start develop it, because if you develop from left to right and then users see it and say no, we should use from top to down, it will be difficult to develop it again, and everything should be clarified. Address formats and phone numbers can be written different too. For example, in my country, in Kazakhstan, we write like street, then number of street, then like apartment. But for other countries, can be written first the number of street, then name of street, and it's different too for different countries. And phone numbers can be written with dash. For example, in Kazakhstan, we write it with the dash, but we first write code of the country of the city in the bracket, then whole number with the dash. But for example, if you create some app and you should write contacts, to clarify in what format use phone in country that you localize. It's my, I like this slide because it's very interesting facts in this slide. It's about images, numerical and color. Images here, I put like silhouettes because not a real person picture because it's like has one secret. If user see silhouette, it's easy for him or her imagine himself in this silhouette or photo. And it's a very interesting fact. It's better to put series in your when you like in logo or somewhere if you need a human's portrait. The next one is numerical. I read about I read a lot of facts about like 4 number in the China and Japan. It's mean like this. I read about it. 17 in Italy means like there's 2 and how I remember. And it's in Japan 9 means like this meaning too, and how I read about it. That we haven't Windows 9 and iPhone 9 because 9's worst number in Japan, and it was decided to don't use this number. The next one is restriction, advanced restrictions, sounds restrictions. For example, you localize it for one country, you put the video, and then came like restriction. I heard that in Germany have a lot of restriction for advertising, and you should clarify because it will be a problem that you localize it, and then some errors came, and for not have it, you should know about what restrictions in this country. I had prepared a statistic for countries. You can see that we have German, French, Russian in this country. For this language, more like localized for more for these languages. It's like statistic for it that users choose this language for localizate their system. In first place, it's German, then French, Russian, and you see here Chinese, simplified Chinese, not traditional one. We'll stop to some languages and see it. The first one is German, and in German we have problems like with alphabet, not problems, but some symbols can be not appeared in UI because they have like dot before or like under the letter, and it should be clarified because in UI you can see some hieroglyph or something like that. If you not clarified it, and system can't recognize this letter. The next one, German and Italian, it's have longest words in the world. I had experience with German language. I will show you my experience, and there was like one little word like for no in German it's 9 and will be longer and can be problem with UI. All things can be shifted. And in German, we have like formal and informal style. And when translate like from one language to German, it can be translated for informal style. But your application should be used in formal style, and it will be problems. You should clarify it what formal format it will be, and translators should translate for this format. The next language is Russian. We have a lot meanings for one word. For English, we have the same like tell, speak, and for Russian, we have like one word can mean different things. Different things and can used in different situations. In Russian, we have difficult grammar and can be issues with translation. I had experience. It's not good experience because all translation should be professional translator. But we decided to do ourselves, and it was a big issue to us because we know spoken language, but when we started to translate it to our application, it was very hard because it was first issue with translation. Then one word in all applications should be in one format, but we had like different ending of words in all our applications. Then we fixed it, and we had a lot of problems. And now I know that if you want to localize your system, please hire professional translators, because it's a big problem can appear with this. The next language is Italian. In Italian, how I mentioned earlier, have long words too, and very complex grammatical structure. Can be issues with translation, specific letters like in German with dots, and my colleagues had experience with Italian language and said that firstly they prepared like base, but then when they put real words, it was problem because of the specific letters. They didn't appear in UI, and everything should be prepared for this use internationalization of system, and everything should be prepared for this kind of letters. The next one is Japanese. In Japanese language, we have like mind tone of voice. For example, like you translated from like simple one, but in app it's working like in traditional one. It can be problem too. Like in Chinese, we have the same issue. Not only for Japanese, but for all language, symbols and colors can mean a lot of things. And please clarify what color should be like used in your system. The next one, forget about translating everything, because some words is not translating, some words can mean different things if you translate everything. And you should translate, not you, but translators, or if you should translate meaning of the sentences, not all words. The next language is Chinese. I talked about it, that we have simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese, but now more useful is simplified one. And if you translate for simplified and traditional, can be like different meanings, and you should clarify in what format should be your language, like simplified or traditional one. In Chinese, we have a lot of characters in the font, and it can be long words, and you should know about it, because UI can be shifted, how I mentioned. And about this, it can be like with memory, problem with memory, and clarify it with requirements is writing with developers will be a problem with your system. Everything will be okay with memory or no. This can be issue too. The next one, it's culture features, and it's not only for Chinese one. If you use like names, I think if it's not name of real person, you can prepare it like for local that you use Chinese name or Italian name if you localize it for Italian language, and it will be better to your users. But however, if you have some word that useful in all countries, like in English, you should stay like in this format, not translate it. And I want to say about my experience on the project. I had experience with localization. First, it's that you see, it's German language. We have like leave us message in English short, but in the German it was very long, and we cut it and translate it again. Our translators will work with it, because it was everything was shifted, like in this example to we can't see any logo and anything, and our translators worked on this, that sentence should be shorter but not to lose meaning of this sentence. And the next one that I explained in the Russian, but it was difficult too because of translation, and we had a lot of preparation. But in our system we had internationalization, and we only prepared our translation. It was difficult with translation, but for all we haven't any bug because we prepared like internationalization for our system. Okay, and for conclusion, I mentioned all the things, but it's main things. First, please clarify everything when requirements is written for BAs, for stakeholders. Is everything about everything, image, color, font, everything should be clarified when requirements is written. Then hire professional translators. I mentioned it too. If it's possible, please hire it because it will be problems with translation. If it's on your, like for me, Russian is my language, but it was very difficult to translate our system to this language. So for it, please hire professional translators. The next one, pay attention for everything. How I mentioned earlier, for color, from logos, images, numbers, everything should be localized. And the next one, it's like you should imagine that you your user and you in this country and everything is good for you. Imagine that you are user is US friendly, everything is written correctly, is like numbers written correctly, color. Please imagine that you are user and it will be better to test your application, your system. Okay, it's all from my side. Now you can answer your questions, and if you had experience, please write down in the chat what experience you had with what language, or if I told about your language or didn't tell, please write down about differences in your language. It will be interesting for me. Please write down in the chat, and if you have questions, please ask.
Okay, thank you. While we are waiting, let me read the question from Natalia Potapova. She asked yesterday, and are there any dependencies in localization testing through different devices, browsers, or it is enough to check all supported languages in one browser?
In my experience, we checked in different browsers because we had German language and it was very long, and we should check it in all browsers that it's okay in all browsers because Italian and German language very long, how I mentioned, and I think we should test not only in one browser.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And the next question is how to automate localization internationalization testing.
About automation, I hadn't experienced in it, but I think automation can be used, but to check that everything is on the place, but something like if it shifted or if it long, can check functional testers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. A role of QA and the dev team in internationalization testing.
I think when internationalization localization testing is used, all a team should be involved, like BAs prepare all translators and BAs prepare translation of this language. Then QAs check all requirements, that everything is covered, and then developers should read and know that everything covered in the code and write the code. I think all members should be included in this localization process, internationalization and localization process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. How define in the separate scope of localization and the internationalization testing?
Localization testing, how I mentioned earlier, it's like translation or it's like the same things, but in translation you can check API code and everything that inside the program. But localization you check like UI things and everything. But in internationalization you can check system, how system works with different language, not for one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. There is a question from Nihil. His presentation will be shared. We will share with the video recording, and it will be available. So Giovanni, she said that she has to left. Okay.
I see one question. Does it make sense to check internalization in parallel with regular testing new feature, or better separately when the feature is debugged? Okay. I think it's better to check parallel, but it can be separately. I think it depends on situation, but sometimes it can be tested in parallel and separately. But in my case, I tested it separately. Separately for all testing, it was like internationalization testing only.
Okay, thank you. Tatiana, she's asking, does it make sense to check internalization in parallel with regular testing?
Yes, I read it. Go hard. I asked for this question.
Okay, and Karina, she shared with her a little experience in testing, searching Japanese, and she had an issue trying to search stomach cancer, but
And
results contained pockmarks, diamond, and there was nothing about cancer. Oh, it's a really good experience. Thank you. So,
Natalia had experience too. Thank you very much for your comments. Natalia, Karina, thank you for your comments, for your questions. Please write down your questions, your experience. It will be interesting. We can write, or if you're from one country, what difference you have, what problems with like your language. I thought about my Russian language, what problems we had. Please write down about your. What is the most difficult language to localize in your opinion? I think Chinese, Japanese one, but I think all, because first I saw that for German, for Russian, it will be okay, everything will be okay. Russians will be easy, but we had a lot of problems, and I think all languages difficult to localize. And but Chinese or Japanese. Should the localization testing to be defined as a separate item within QA estimates? I think yes, because it takes a lot of time to check localization, and I think it should be estimated too. Thank you too. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, can you see my screen? We have next TechTalk. I think Ohar will tell about it.
Yes, next TechTalk, Julia Gerner, she will tell us about a situation when there is only one tester on the project, and she will give us advices, tips, tricks, and please join and register. I hear the link. I send it to the chat. So thank you all for participants, and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.